Hello guys, today we would like to present about our research, which is about the business relationship, which is focused in developing strategy and instrument for building and managing BPO vendors and client relationship. So, first of all, before we start into our presentation, we would like to present about our table of content. So within this presentation, we will talk about the introduction itself, and then the objective, which is contained of our research questions, and then move on, we're gonna talk about the methodology, solution, and at the end, we're gonna talk about conclusion. So start with how we're going to do our research. So this is our framework of thinking, how we're gonna execute our research. So what we did in our research is, so we start with overview, and then we go on with the research questions, methodology, and also solution. So in overview itself, we talk about the current scenario of outsourcing relationship. So in here, we talk about the situation in the current market, and then in the research questions, based on that overview, we're gonna come up with our research questions, how to develop and maintain high performance BPO relationship with their clients. And then after that, we're gonna talk about methodology, how we, this is more like technical basis, like strategies and method for data collecting, analysis, and also presentation. And at the end, it's about solution. This is where we're gonna put all our framework and how we gonna give guidelines on how BPO providers and clients can do their relationship better. So move on, we're gonna talk about the overview itself. So as I mentioned before, the overview is about the current scenario. So the current scenario now is BPO in the future, in 2020, we will have 220 billion market in the global market, which is really, really huge. However, 50% of BPO clients and also BPO provider willing to change their current contracts with their BPO provider. This has become our hampers and also hampers for BPO to get more clients in terms of seeing the future in 2020. And at the end, of course, our point of our research itself is relationship between clients and provider could be better, and we would like to find the key factors to map the predicted growth in the future. So the next one will be explained by my colleagues.
Hello guys, next is about the research question. So in this research, we divide into 4 stages of relationship that we come up with a question. The first one is how to build good relationship between the BPO provider and their clients. Next is how to maintain the good relationship between them. Next is how to resolve the problem or the issue that happened between the BPO provider and the clients. And the last one is what are the factor or the key point that could end the BPO relationship. So next is the methodology that we use in this research. We have a combination between the primary research and secondary research when the secondary research become more substantial in this research. And in the end, we develop the framework in order to answer those research questions. So the solution of it is the guideline for those 4 stages. The first one is a guideline to build a new outsourcing relationship. Next is the guideline to maintain and sustain a BPO relationship. And the next one is how to resolve the conflict that happened between the clients and the provider. And next is the potential factor that leads to termination of the BPO relationship. So next we're going to go in the framework, which is the first one.
So, and the first framework is we will talk about this, how we're gonna start our BPO and client relationship. In here, we come up with 6 elements that we think really important before clients or BPO start their relationship. So first of all, we start with the purpose of clarity. Purpose clarity itself mainly about vision and mission. So in here, we would like to, in here, clients and BPO providers should adjust their vision and mission so they can become one, and then produce really good performance for their clients. And the next one is about management commitment. So management commitment itself, it's more towards about roles and responsibilities. What we mean here about roles and responsibilities, it's there will be at least two partners, which is BPO providers and clients. So each partner should know the role and responsibility on how they deliver their service. And then the next one is maintaining trust. So maintaining trust is really important. I believe this one could be the core of any kind of business relationship. Without trust, I don't think any partnership will be happen. So the main idea here for BPO and clients, the maintain trust, it's about equal and fairness. Why equal and fairness? Both partners should be treated equally and then have same responsibility and fairness during the contract. So after the trust, we're moving to the working arrangement. In working arrangement itself, it's about the transparency and awareness. Okay, it's really basic. All the partnership, all the business relationship, it should be transparent, and the other side, either BPO clients or the BPO provider, should aware what has happened between their relationship. So working arrangement is about transparency and awareness. The next one is about performance management. Performance management itself, it's more about the monitoring and reviewing. Why it's really important? Because once the contract is already go on, we should know what happened to their contract, what happened to the relationship, what happened with these business activities. So we need to maintain, monitor, and reviewing what happened during the contract itself. And at the end, of course, we need to share and learning experience. This part, which I believe it's connected to all the rest of the 5 elements. Why? Because if we already knew what happened, maybe we have problem in proposed clarity, management commitment, or other elements, we can do this in sharing learning experience so that all the problems that happened in previous or in other elements won't happen again in the next period of contract. So the next one, we have a different framework.
So after how you know how to build a new relationship with between the clients and the provider. Next, I'm going to talk about the potential factors that lead to the termination between the BPO relationship. You may think about the cost over budget during the project, or the trust that is being destroyed during the project, but there are some insights behind that, which consists of 4 main factors. The first one is lack of goal alignment. Imagine that if you are the client and you want to ask for the vendor to have a solution for your business, but you have different set of goals, objectives, and interests, it's going to be difficult in order to work together in the future. Next is inadequate SLA specification in terms of quality requirement or security of information, which include the intellectual property. If you don't have a clear requirement enough, or you don't have enough discussion in the beginning of your relationship, it's going to be a problem in the future. Next is different work culture. It's pretty hard to identify in the beginning of starting of the relationship. You may know in the operation phase, which you as a client, the provider, has a different working style, which lead to the misunderstanding and mistrust within the collaboration in the future. And the last one is inappropriate client control, which the client did not provide the flexibility to the provider in order to have a freedom to solve the solution. And on the other hand, the BPO clients didn't dedicate their managers or team member in order to be involved in the project. So next is the framework number 3.
So now that we know what is to start a new relationship and to build it, we decide how to maintain and sustain high-performing relationships. So here we have the client and the vendor, and we have different factors which the client and the vendor can do separately to make sure that each of their relationships is working well. So the first we would look at is trusting your vendor. So the client from his side has to trust the vendor with information and whatever necessary data that the vendor needs to work with his process. Communication. There has to be a two-way communication from the client to the vendor, and there has to be this communication has to be constant so that they can be in synchronization with their business processes. The next would be problem-solving attitude. When there is a conflict or an issue happening, the client and the vendor both must sit together and solve their problems, and the client cannot entirely depend on the vendor for solving his problems. Precise requirements. It is the client's responsibility when the contract is being signed to see that there is enough scope and the scope is precise for the vendor to deal and carry on with the processes. The next part from the vendor. The vendor is a BPO vendor which could be anywhere. So they have diverse teams, they have different cultures, and the vendor should provide for continuous improvement. The client expects that the vendor keep improving their processes so that they could benefit from their relationship. The vendor should give a clear estimation of budget and time so that there are no delays and there is no over budget of expenses that happens from the vendor's side. Both the client and the vendor have to make sure of these factors. First of all is collaboration. Both of them need to work together to improve their processes and benefit from their relationship. The second is clear contract. In this case, we have formal governance that has to be taken care of and make sure that there are clear contracts and clear performance metrics to be shown by the vendor and the client. Partnership between the two is very important. And the next is the cultural differences. The client and the vendor must understand the cultural differences between each other to have a better relationship. The next framework, we would talk about conflicts. Every relationship has conflicts, and so business are bound to have conflicts at some stage or the other. But it is how you resolve these conflicts that's most important. So there are 3 approaches that you can use to resolve conflicts. The first one is aggressive, the second is the balanced, and the third is the collaborative. If a client would want to resolve a conflict through aggressive approach, that would either weaken their relationship, but it would solve the issue. One of the ways or factors through which they can resolve a conflict is terminate the contract of the vendor or change the vendor. The balanced approach is where you view the vendor as a partner. So this outsourcing relationship is more like a partnership. So both the client and the vendor are equally responsible for every process or every action that they take. The collaborative approach is more about mutual beneficial approach. It's like if the vendor and the client are in a conflict situation, they both choose a path which is beneficial to both of them, or the minimum loss for both of them. So not one partner should only suffer for the loss. The next, if this case could be effective, if we have effective governance and also transparency. There has to be honesty from the vendor and the client side regarding the scheduling, regarding the money, regarding budget and other factors. So these are the conflicts resolution steps and approaches that a vendor can use or the clients can use. So in the next part, we talk about the conclusion. Why was this research important? When we started this paper, we were specific about the outsourcing sector, but in general, this research can be used for all businesses as it can be looked through in a general framework. What do we know and what do we not know about governance? Good governance is the result of successful communication and relationships, but most companies do not know this and end up suffering and have conflicts and are not able to resolve their conflicts because of bad governance practices. The next is the research activities that we have undertaken to go through this paper. We've gone through journals, articles, company reviews, reports, various books by famous authors. and the solution. To view the full solution of this paper, you would have to click on this link, and this solution would provide you different factors, success factors that you need as a client or a vendor to have a successful relationship with your business partner. Thank you.